Hello and welcome to PM Express. It's a Wednesday, so it's Corporate Wednesday. So we're going to talk corporate. Only this time we're talking national corporate. Now on the 15th of July, Global Training Consult with Paula Nicholson as Associate Director had an event themed Capacity Building Solution to Sustain Ghana's New Middle Income Status as a Country. Mr. Rashid Pelpo, Minister of State in charge of Public-Private Partnership and the Presidency, was there. He was a guest speaker. And he extended government support to GTC and also highlighted certain areas that we might need special help from GTC. These areas are energy, utilities, infrastructure, i.e. roads and stuff, housing, and also the agro business. With me in the studio is Paula Nicholson, who's the Associate Director, to discuss this issue. And also joining me on the phone later will be John Agachi, who's a lecturer at the University of Science and Technology in Finance and Accounting. But Paula will do the leadership side and the GTC side, because that's the support they give. John will join us later and show us where middle income lives, where he comes from, and how we can all find him and become middle income. But welcome to the show, Paula.
Thank you, Nana. Thank you.
Paula, I read a bit about your company and I thought, I never knew there was something like that. Global Training Consult, where you literally move from country to country and train leaders. You've been in the market for 10 years. Just a little brief of what you do.
Sure. Our headquarters are based in London. We have training centres throughout the world: Boston, New York, Dubai, Kuala Lumpur. And we provide training across 7 faculties to emerging economies, training senior leaders. And we also are accredited by Middlesex University to master's level. Been in the business, as you rightly said, Nana, for 10 years and working in Ghana for most of that time, but really seriously over the last 2 years.
I see. And you deal with private companies or you deal with governments?
We do both.
You do both?
Originally, when we very first started, we were mainly working with the public sector, but as a result of some of the things that we did, we've moved more into the private sector, and again into some of the big utilities such as energy as well.
Very good. Now, also a little research tells me that very recently you were in Nigeria.
Yes.
Helping Nigeria as well.
Yes, yeah, we've worked in Nigeria for a long time. Also, it's one of our big markets because I think as you know, they've got
a lot of energy crisis.
A fair amount of work to do.
Energy challenges.
Yes, challenges. They have some work to do around that. So yes, we do a lot of work with Nigeria. A lot of work.
Well, how big is your organisation, Global Training Consult? Because, I mean, Nigeria is huge.
Yes.
So if you do Nigeria, you do Ghana, and I know you do a few more countries.
Yes, of course, yes, we do.
So how big are you guys?
We have a permanent staff based in London of about 25 people.
Okay.
But what we do have is we have a large network. So, for instance, here in Ghana, I have a country manager here in Ghana, and we also work with some other business partners in Ghana to make sure there's local presence. And we do that in each of the countries we work. We work in Tanzania, Ethiopia, Kenya, we work through Asia, Pakistan. So we work internationally across the globe.
Okay, so now we're coming back to Ghana. So what do? You wake up in the morning, flip through the news and say, that's an emerging country. Let's move in there.
No, it's not quite like that. It's not quite like that. What has happened is, because we've been in the business for 10 years, what actually has happened is we deal right across the board, as I said, globally. And then what happens is I spend time in each of those countries working with the governments, working with some of those leaders to establish really who is serious about capacity building. And that's how we start to target some of those countries.
Oh, so countries that have shown signs
Absolutely.
of
that they want to build capacity.
Then you move in.
Yes.
So Ghana's clearly shown signs of
Absolutely.
The funny thing is, you've probably seen it from outside, but then the story from inside might be different. That's not your business, but we'll get there.
Okay, everybody says that about their own governments, I'm sure.
Exactly.
I'm sure.
There's no Jesus in Bethlehem. You have to go to Jerusalem to become Jesus. So it's the same thing here. It's the same thing here. It's the same thing here. Now, the areas in which you are going to help us, which is energy, utility, infrastructure, are you picking just one sector out of the 5 that we have issues with, or are you going to do all?
We work across the board, excuse me, and we work predominantly in the soft skills sector. So things like leadership and compliance and transparency and finance. Regardless of which of your individual sectors they are, those same principles apply. So we don't pick out those individuals, we work across the whole of the sectors. The sectors there that you're referring to are what the Minister referred to, and those are the sectors that Ghana are trying to concentrate on specifically with regard to some of their PPP projects. And again, we'll be working with them to help them, hopefully, to achieve some of those.
Now, you see, most people will say, there we go again, we're making a mistake.
Okay.
Once upon a time, we were colonized by the English.
Right.
And then we fought and fought and fought because we could stand on our own 2 feet.
Yep.
56 years down the line, here comes another English lady to say that I'm going to teach you transparency. Maybe not your side, but I mean, what is it about transparency that we don't know that you can teach us?
Okay. It's not that we can teach you at all. We're, as an institution, we're a non-academic institution. So all of our programs are about career development and about building capacity. So what we do is we use consultants to facilitate those training programs. And they are people who are currently practitioners today. And we say at the beginning of all of our programs, we're not there to give them lots of academic models. You do that through university, and you do that through academia. What we do is we provide a melting pot of ideas. So our consultants are able to give anecdotal evidence and say, look, these are some really strong case studies. Let's have a look at those. Will they work for your organisation? Will they work for you as an individual? And will they work for you as a country? And take some of those ideas and develop them for yourself in the areas that you feel they will work. So it's not prescriptive. It's not supposed to be prescriptive. It's supposed to give people an opportunity to see how other people do it in other organisations and indeed other countries. And it's not just in the UK. Our practitioners come from around the world. So that you as people are exposed to how other people do it, and rightly and wrongly. Mm-hmm. So we also show you what happens when it goes wrong too. That's the idea. So the idea is that you have some accelerated learning through other people's experience.
You see, you've sort of answered my next question a little bit, but I just want to ask, so that we go specific. The danger of prescribing the wrong medicine.
Yes.
Because maybe in the UK, we put in 5 and we got 7. Maybe next door to France put in 5 and they got 7. But maybe in Ghana, you need to put in, 6, to get 9. And that, in natural fact, if you put in 5, nothing comes. You just need to go up to, how do you make sure that the prescription you're giving us is what we need and not what worked there?
Right. Going back to that original point, it isn't prescriptive. The idea is, yes, we do some methodology, some proven methodology, but we look at case studies, as I said to you, and because we are Middlesex accredited, it's Masters accredited, and we're the only organisation to have our framework of learning accredited.
Okay.
The reason they accredited our framework is because it's a blended learning approach. As I said to you, case studies, field trips, one-on-one discussions. But ultimately it comes down to what we call reflective practice. So the idea is that at the end or during any programme, we're saying to people, okay, what did you get? What did you like? How are you going to use it? What are the challenges that will stop you using it? How will it work for you? How will it work for your organisation? How will it work for your country? What will it do? What are you actually going to do to make sure it works? So it's not prescriptive. What we're doing is we're showing people lots of ideas, and then you make your decision for yourself as to what works for you as an individual, for your organisation and for your country. I'm a real big believer that, I'm not arrogant. I don't think West is best. I work across the Africas, as I said to you, and I think, in some countries, and Ghana, in particular, there are some great things you do. You shouldn't change those. And then there are some other things that maybe you do need to, or maybe you need to enhance. And what we do is we take existing skills and we enhance them. There aren't major gaps. We're taking the skills that you already have and giving you some outside influence to make some decisions as to whether you think you need to make changes.
You see, Paula, every leader in Ghana, for a long time back, knew that the energy demand was 10% every year. Everyone knows, they come, they have their 4 years, get re-elected, and they know that for me to sustain this country, just sustain it, not even enough to bring in investment, just to turn on street lights and turn on your fridge, we need to grow energy by 10%. None of them have done it. So if the same, individual from a government, no, I'm not blaming him, but, a representative, stands there and said, oh, I'm happy to have you here because I know you can help us in energy. I mean, what is he expecting you to tell him? The same thing that, oh, Mr. Pelpo, Mr. Minister, you need to grow by 10%. Since you haven't grown in the last 20 years, now you need to go by 200% and then carry on. I mean,
right.
what is he expecting you to tell him?
I'm not sure that that I have a minister that ever comes to me and actually says that. I think that what we do is they will tell us usually what the issues are, on the training side I'm talking, what the issues are and what they're hoping to achieve. And then they look at what training they need for their leaders to be able to, for instance, develop the right strategy. Because otherwise, if you just come into a country on the basis that consultants are coming in to fix things, you're never building capacity. You're never building capacity. Capacity building is about giving people or enhancing people's skills to be able to make their own decisions. Then what the politicians do about that 10% is down to them. I'm not a politician.
So we're going to role play, and we're taking a clear case study of Ghana. And, we have Akosombo Dam, which is giving us about just under 2,000 kilowatts. We have a few private ones, but in general, we are a little bit upside down. We haven't grown in the past year, which we know, and it's in the news, it's in the newspapers every day. And here you are with your good ideas, and I've come on board and said, so how would you help me?
Okay. The first thing we have to do, the first thing we would say to you is, okay, why is it that you're not growing? So that's where the consultants, and please bear in mind that I'm not a consultant for energy.
What's your area?
For me, leadership.
Leadership.
Mine's at leadership.
We'll go there.
All right. Okay, so it's about good leadership. But a lot of this also comes down to some of those same issues in terms of strategic planning. So we would look at where you feel the gaps are. What is it that is not happening? And is that because the people who are making the decisions maybe haven't got in place the right tools to be able to make the decision? Do they have the ability to make the decisions when they go back into their organisations? So we look at why things aren't happening first from those people's point of view, and then have a look at what skills we need to give them. And bear in mind, these are soft skills. We're talking about leadership and finance, etc., to help them to make strategic decisions, how to perhaps plan things through, how to project manage. And most of these people, we are talking about senior executives, they know how to do those basics, and sometimes it's just about about enhancing those skills to help them to make informed decisions. How have other countries done it? How have other organisations done it? And giving them the confidence sometimes to be able to make those decisions outside of what they already know.
Well, with leadership, I say that within Africa you never run out of jobs. Then you will be busy till thy kingdom come. As far as leadership is concerned, because we have had a fair share of challenges when leadership comes into play. Now, I'll give you another case study. I use Ghana.
Okay.
We have a leadership and executive expenditure which is extremely high. We have leaders who drive very, very luxury cars. We have other parts of the country that could have done with a bit more of money to develop. But we have leaders who wouldn't sacrifice their luxury for those things. You have girl child education. I'll go to the Millennium Challenge because I know you're an ambassador to that, but we'll get to there. So we have all that, and then we have these leaders, doing these things. So what do you tell these leaders?
Okay. It's not about us telling leaders how they have to behave. So if people choose to do those things, we're not coming in to run your country for you, and we're not involved in any form of politics. What we do is that for those types of leaders, hopefully what would happen through some of our training programs is they start to have a look at their own behaviours. So we do a lot around behaviours and whether they are appropriate behaviours, for instance. But it's not for us to dictate how somebody should behave. It's only for us to give them, again, a platform to make their own decisions.
Going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, Paula is also the ambassador for the Millennium Development Goals. Yeah. So we'll talk about that, and then we'll look at how Ghana is missing all its goals and what we can do to catch up in our goals. Stay tuned. Hello, and welcome back to the show. We are talking about Ghana's middle income status. We're also talking about GTC, which is Global Training Consult, who are in Ghana. In fact, they are all over Africa, but they're in Ghana. And they basically train in leadership, provide support and technical support in areas or sectors where any nation or indeed private companies have challenges in. And an associate director for GTC is Paula Nicholson, who's with me in the studio, and we're discussing. But she's also the ambassador for the Millennium Development Goals. And we have a fair challenging Millennium Development Goals in Ghana: girl child education, maternal birth, rural development, and she's here. So if I take maternal birth, at the moment for every 100,000 births, we lose 350. It's a bit high. It's too high.
Yes, it is.
So how do we close this gap or reduce this number?
Okay. Again, a lot of it comes through education. What I should say to you is the ambassadorship, which I was really, really proud to get through the Global Initiative in Nigeria, was awarded to me at the beginning of last year, mainly for the work I did with women's education. So my area really of concentration and knowledge is around women's education. So I don't pretend, for instance,
so girl-child education, yeah? Girl-child education.
Yeah. So
okay.
we're doing, in terms of Nigeria, for instance, we're setting up a number of initiatives, and I'm working with some politicians' wives at the moment on some projects, for instance, in Agric, where we are looking at setting up academies throughout Nigeria to look at young women's education and give them the tools to develop within the
Paula,
agriculture
let me just
business.
acknowledge John. John is joining us, and then we finish. Hello, John.
Hello.
John, thank you very much for joining the show. I'll just quickly brief you, and I'll let Paula finish. But basically, we're looking at sustaining Ghana as a middle-income country. And then I have Paula Nicholson here, who is the Associate Director for Global Training Consult. What they mainly do is provide training for countries that are classified as emerging economies in sectors or areas which, we have challenges in education, infrastructure. They give training and technical support to the leadership and everything. But I will bring you in so that you explain to us what it is this low middle income is. Paula is also the ambassador for the Millennium Development Goals. And she's doing a project in Nigeria. She's going to finish her submission, and then I'll come to you. So stay with me on the phone, John.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Okay. Yeah. So we're setting up an academy for young women to learn how to get more from their from really what are our cottage industries, their agric. So we're training them on we're training them on business, some business tools, and we are giving them better tools to be able to produce more that is sustainable. So that's a really large project, and that's mainly what my involvement has been. I'm one of the ambassadors, I should say. I'm not the ambassador. That would be a super position to have, but it's not. So we're working on that, and that's a very large project. We're also working on some sponsorship in the UK specifically to sponsor the education of young women, both inside and outside of the country, again to make sure it's sustainable education. Very good.
John, let me just let listeners know, John is a lecturer in the Department of Accounting and Finance in the School of Business in University of Cape Coast. John, you would know what a middle-income country is, if you can explain to us, because, you speak to the average Ghanaian, and they are wondering, well, I don't see any middle income. I'm still suffering from power cuts. I am still earning the same money. Fuel prices are going up, and I'm hard up. So how come we're middle income? I mean, if you can explain it to us.
Well, I think it's just a statistical measure that the World Bank has adopted by looking at the GNI, that is the gross national income, or the GDP per capita, that is the GDP per the population. If it ranges from $1,000 to $1,036, then that qualifies a country to be lower middle income country. But beyond that, up to from $1,000 to $1,036 up to $4,000, then you are lower middle income, and beyond that, then you fall into upper middle income. But there are some challenges attached to that way of measuring the development of a country. We all know that income throughout the world are not equally distributed. Therefore, if you take the GDP, for example, per capita, what you are trying to say is that on average, you are telling us that there is improvement across board in the country, while in reality, if you are not participating in any income generation activity, for example, if you're not engaged in any employment activity, you are not in reality sharing in the GDP of the country. So if you are talking about middle income, it does not mean that poverty is out. India is within the middle income status, but if you look at India, you take about 6 children, 3 would die out of malnutrition. Even though India is a nuclear power, they engage even more industrial activity than ours, but poverty still lingers on in that country. So I would say that middle income status is just a statistical measure expressed as the GDP or GNI per capita for that particular country. And
so,
as I said earlier on, a middle income status, especially ours, lower middle income status, does not mean that the fundamental challenges and problems that we have to our development trajectory in the country is overcome.
Very good. John, what are the advantages if you have that classification?
Well, I think we need to talk about the challenges first before we go to the advantages.
Very good. Let's hear the challenges.
Yeah. Since that computation is coming from the World Bank, what it means is that automatically the World Bank takes you out of the concessionary loan category, which means that you need to go to the market and take loan to finance your long-term projects and capital projects. For example, financing infrastructure, that we claim that we have a huge deficit in the road sector, huge deficit in the power sector, energy sector across the country. It means that you need to go to the market to look for, facilities at the market rate, which actually puts a new burden on a new lower middle income country. So these are the things. But it gives you the encouragement that some of your programs and policies that you have put in place have actually, giving you a higher GDP, for which when you distribute it among your population, it is something to write home about. But in reality, it does not solve the fundamental challenges that you have as a country.
John, you see, with our newfound oil and the big telecom companies, which do not really belong to us as a country. We might get some money from there. So a big chunk of all these calculations don't necessarily reach us as a people. Are we not treading on dangerous grounds if we are classified as lower middle income?
Well, if you are classified as a lower middle income, that has nothing to do with those things, because you need those multinationals to operate in your country to contribute to the development of the country.
But aren't they adding their incomes, dividing it amongst that? Aren't they adding their incomes and dividing it among Ghanaians?
That will always happen in any economy across the world. But what is the major issue is that those sectors that contribute to the GDP, which is very large, and that has made us to get to the middle income sector, they are not the sectors that generate the mass job that we need for our people. They are more capital intensive. They are easily repatriated out of the country. So that is the issue that is confronting us. So we need sectors within the economy that contribute hugely to GDP growth in the country, such as agriculture and the rural strengthening of the rural economy, which is very weak in many sub-Saharan African countries which fall within the middle income status right now. So I believe that those are the main challenges. If you want to talk about multinationals, you always need multinationals to augment the industrial and manufacturing activity within your country to contribute to your GDP. That will always happen. It is there in any country across the world.
John, John, let me go back to this multinational question, because I know that with our GDP, the percentage and everything, if you took the oils and the multinational out, what was left was really, really small. The growth that was left was very, very small. You see, you don't mind if multinationals come and the growth affects you in terms of the monies that is left in the country. But when they repatriate the money, but then it's added onto yours, is that not a danger?
They contribute to the GDP and they repatriate what by law is allowed to be repatriated out of the country. We have an open-ended investment and trade policy in this country that entice people to come and do business and encourage them to repatriate the money out of the country. If we think that this thing is not helping us, there are two things that we ought to do. We need to deepen the participation of the locals and the local businesses in those sectors of the economy. But as it stands right now, you will realize that the locals and the local industrial base and the SMEs plus local large businesses in the country are not effectively participating in those sectors that result in huge repatriation out of the country. You have very few strong local companies operating in the mining and the oil sector. You have very few of those local companies who are doing effectively very well in the telecommunications subsector of our economy. So we need, if we want more money to stay in the country, then we need to empower the local entities to participate in those sectors of the economy. And on the other hand, we need to get to a point that we say no to higher repatriation by actually putting a cap on how much to be repatriated and within what period that can be done in the Ghanaian economy. If we're not able to do that, a lot of business activities will be generated. That will be income in the pockets of foreigners, and they will send it. But that is not their fault. It is our duty to bring in policies that will address the situation.
Stay on there. I see you are nodding and agreeing with what he's saying. So GTC, in your line of training, I mean, are you telling us to negotiate so we keep money here, or?
No, it wasn't about that. I was nodding because what John was saying was about effectively building capacity in your own country. And for instance, one of the faculties that we are working very hard on in Ghana is the PPP faculty, the public-private partnerships. And it's something that Ghana is very committed to. And I think John's right. You can go two ways with PPP. You can either make it all foreign investment that is coming in, and again, ultimately, they're going to take the money out of the country. But I think where PPP can really help in Ghana is that it is absolutely possible to get people to come in and invest, foreign investors, to do PPPs and PFIs, but in association by creating conglomerates effectively with local organisations as well. And I think that way you'll get your infrastructure, you build your capacity, you've got some foreign companies coming in, you've got new ideas, but you also build for your local communities as well, your local businesses too.
John, but here we are, where all graduates are doing marketing and HR, and all the businesses are going into, you find out there's a big lack in construction, manufacturing, science and technology. So even with the good intent, I mean, we are not well positioned to face the world, are we?
I think we are doing our best, but there are a lot of things which are wrong. Even where we have engaged in some form of trying to increase the capacity of Ghanaian people, we do not strategize as to how to use the end product. I want to give an example with the oil sector. Over the past few years, the oil companies, together with government, have actually sent in excess of 200 people to go and read various masters programs in the well-developed countries such as Scotland and the rest. But there is no clear-cut policy that these people should come back to engage in specific activities for the benefit of the nation. They go as single individuals, they come as single individuals, and they look for what they want to do for themselves. it means that we do not benefit maximum. So the strategy to utilize the deployment of human resource in the country is also very weak, and that is the reason why we are where we are. So we also need to look at that particular aspect. So it's not just about building capacity, but the deployment of the human resource that we have built over the year is very key to our development efforts in the country. And again, our education ought to be transformed drastically. You will realize that we are churning out about 28,500 a year from our tertiary institutions. But it is high time that we emphasize on science education, innovation, creativity, and how people can use the ideas that have been generated in their 4-year, 5-year program to generate clear-cut ventures for national development. But that is not happening effectively in the country. We do not have clear-cut focus on building the local economy with particular attention to the rural economy. Most aspects of agriculture is done in the rural communities, but we have not actually put in clear-cut effort to energize and introduce innovation and then technology, simple technology in ensuring we keep alive the rural economy. That we need to rethink about all these things to be able to put our economy on track. If you engage in building conglomerates, we have seen a lot of examples. Most of the multinationals who come into the country by our company law, they have to have some kind of a small partnership with Ghanaian people. So these partnerships have been there all the time, but it has not yielded any much benefit to the Ghanaian people. So we need to change the strategy from building conglomerates with partnership from international partners with Ghanaian partners. That alone is not the solution. Much of our basic economic activity is in the rural area, but we are not developing the rural area. We are happy to put up good roads in the cities, but we are not happy to link the productive sectors in the hinterland, in the rural areas, with good roads and then with the amenities that will make people comfortable to generate linkages with the business activities in the rural areas. People are not easily going there to set up agribusiness to have a direct linkage with the kind of business activity that is taking place in the rural economic system. So we need to refocus on this in order to energize our economic activity in the country.
You see, Paula, you see, that's what my opening statement is, that we have, good brains like John here.
Yep.
Somehow we don't have confidence in ourselves. So then we need to hire the services of GTC. As part of your training, are you going to tell us to build confidence, and are you going to use him as an agent in Ghana?
Again, John had some good points there. I think, academia, again, you have a whole raft of educated people. And John's right, it's about inspiring some creativity. And creativity begins at home initially, and what Ghana does to inspire its people, obviously, comes from all sorts of sources. But where a company like GTC come in is to, again, give some international exposure, which gives creative, innovative solutions that come from the Ghanaians themselves. We facilitate those things. We're singing from the same hymn sheet.
I'm going to take a quick break. John, please stay with me. I'm taking a quick break, and we're coming back soon.
That's okay.
Hello and welcome back. We're talking about Ghana's middle income status. We're also talking about GTC's ability to train leaders and help support in sectors that countries or companies find a bit challenging. This is something that Paula, you said. It says Good governance is about culture, attitude, knowledge, accountability, integrity. More importantly, it's also the ability to act. It's about the deployment of capacity once it has been built. It's so obvious. Do you find, are we lacking this in Ghana?
I think it's not just Ghana. I think that there are across most countries, the lack of action is what causes issues. What fails you to build capacity as quickly as you want. I don't think that's Ghana in particular, and I think John made that point when he said, it's okay training or it's okay educating people, but then we've got to inspire them to act upon that, and that's exactly what I meant by that. I think that, and I'll take you back to the Middlesex framework that we talked about that reflective practice. What we try to do in all of our training programs is get people to work out for themselves how they are going to take action and to give them the tools to take action.
John, I still got you.
Yes, I'm here.
Because as much as I admire GTC and what they do, if I was a leader, I'd want to invite NASA in to show me how to build a rocket, or get somebody in to show me how to, clone a human being. But if you invite consultants in, to tell you about good governance and attitude and accountability and integrity, I think it's far-fetched as leaders of this country. I don't know. What's your position?
Well, my
this
position
is mine. Yeah.
Can I go on?
Yes, of course. Go on.
Yeah, my position is that as a nation, we have reached a point where we need to use the human capacity that we have built. We are not using the capacity we have built over the years. I just gave you some example about the money we have spent on people to go for some training program at the UK. Most of these people have come, but we have not got a strategy to use them to develop the country. Most of the things that she said over there, with due respect to him, we have all those templates in the country, replicated across the country. Our main problem is a focused implementation of what we have accumulated over the years. Let's take the rail sector, for example. Since 1999 to 2000 thereabout, and then from 2003 going forward to 2005, we have had the Bonifrica report that tells us clearly the roadmap with respect to investing in road infrastructure and what it will do for us. That is there. But up to now, we have not been able to implement that. And many of the things that she's saying at the studio, we have the template across the country, how we can develop our women. Of course, a lot of work have been done over the years. We have institutions in the country engaged in that because we do not seem to have faith in our own institutions. We only criticize our institutions. We don't empower them to deliver. So I do not see how much benefit we will be getting if people are built, the capacity of people are built through her program, but we are not able to deploy them effectively and implement programs that come out of that capacity building. That is the main issue that we need to tackle in the country. I do not think that there will be any new solution outside this country given to us in this era. We have everything. We have the roadmap, but implementation and then making the implementation as an urgent task is what we are lacking in the country.
Paulo, what's the silver bullet that GTC can give us so that we can just get up and do it?
It's not a silver bullet. And I think that what John was saying is much more about the technical and academic training he's referring to, so that you are given, so he's right, you're given, you have the technical skills. He's talking about implementation, and that is what our training is about. It's about giving or enhancing people's skills to be able to implement, to be able to build processes to enable other people to be able to implement. So I agree with him in terms of, technical skills. Yes, you have those in Ghana. Throughout the world, whether you're an emerging economy or not, you have to keep enhancing the soft skills, the leadership skills, the compliance, the finance skills, those types of things of the leaders of your country. That's about implementation. You never stop learning those things. So there isn't a silver bullet is the answer to your question. It's about, there isn't a silver bullet. If there were, I'd be a very, very rich woman.
See, we have put systems in place that literally stifle us, literally choking us. Our own systems are in place. Political cycles, just 4 years to do something before you go to the next election. Elections will run for like 6 months. You need another 6 months to, elect a government. So basically you have 3 years to do anything meaningful before you come back for election. We haven't even given ourselves time to implement whatever it is that we want to do. So how do you get around things like that? Because obviously you can't say, change your governing cycle. So with this huge challenge like that, what do you do?
But that's the same in every single country. And when we talk about leaders, we're not talking about your political leaders. We're talking about the leaders in your public sector, the leaders in your private sector.
They all have 4-year cycle because
yeah, but your public servants stay in their positions regardless of who is in government, because they're non-political positions. So every country is always going to deal with the challenges of those 4 or 5 in some countries, but 4 or 5 year political cycles. This is outside of the politics. This is within the running of an organisation or a business, and therefore those skills that we are enhancing for people remain regardless. They carry on building. And you're right about processes choking up the country. And again, you're not alone. I think most countries would say, within the public sector, the processes, the red tape choke things up. And again, some of that training is about process and procedure. It's about good governance. It's about how you can speed things up to take more positive action. That's what we are working with people on a daily basis.
John, it's about how we speed up processes and how you probably, eliminate some of the red tapes, to get things, moving at a faster pace than it is now.
Hello?
Hello, John.
Yes, I'm with you. Can you raise your...
So the training they will be providing will be about how to, for us to eliminate red tapes and speed up processes and get services, quicker than we are getting now.
Well, if they have the skills to be able to instill that in our human resource base in the country, that is okay. But we are talking about sustaining our middle income status. And in sustaining our middle income status, it's not only about the aspect he's talking about, right?
Oh, but if you speed things up, the economy will grow. So things that we'd have done in a week, you do it in 2 days, and then within a week you've done 7 things.
Yeah, the question is how do you revolutionize the whole issue? For example, I stated that we have about 28,500 people getting out of our tertiary institutions every year. We have about the same number of younger people who have not gotten the opportunity to go to tertiary institutions who equally have skills in them? How do we galvanize them to focus more on entrepreneurial activities, to energize them to go into self-employment, to energize them to use their ICT skills to generate business, to apply the ICT skills in various sectors of our economy, ensuring that we use simple technology, especially in agriculture. How are we going to do that very fast? I think that is what is also needed to augment the entire scheme of governance structure in the country. If we focus on governance structure, most of times we train people and we leave them aloof. We meet our political leaders and civil servants, etc. We give them all this training, but it is not actually energized and then used for any good purpose. So that is the challenge I face. If he has a solution as to how practically they can do that for us, then they are on course. But if it is just talking about governance and all those things, which I think that we know the need of those things, and then we have yielded ourselves to them. But what is lacking right now is how to take entrepreneurial drive as a challenge and then try to look at it as a passionate effort that we all need to involve in. That is what is lacking in the country.
John, the other thing before I bring Paula in is by the time we become civil servants and public servants and you're 40, 55 years old, can you really teach an old dog new tricks, or are they set in their ways that they won't be able to break away from it? Should we get them a bit younger? What do you think?
I think, on the other hand, that is the issue I'm raising. To sustain the middle income status for the country, while we have received the middle income badge, we have also realized that we have a teeming youth who not only pose risk to us or security risk for us in the future, but they are actually people who have some kind of training, who can be retrained easily to do something. So I believe to sustain the middle income status, we should actually focus much attention how to use the energies of the young people who are willing to learn and who are willing to contribute to the economy at a faster rate.
Thank you, John. Let me bring Paula in here. Paula, do you find that they're a bit too old and they're set in their ways and they like the red tape? We've always done it that way.
No.
I sign it, he signs it, my mother signed it, you bring it back and I sign it, and now you're telling me that bypass everybody, I sign it and it's okay. No, we don't do it that way.
No, I don't. I'm not saying that at all. I think, again, I said to you, we train some of the senior executives, and some of those have been in the public sector for a long time, and I think that that they come back re-energised from learning new skills or enhancing their skills. But equally, we also train the leaders of the future. So the types of people, perhaps, that John is referring to, have to start off somewhere, and they're not born with leadership skills. They don't come out of their education with leadership skills. They learn how to do the job, and then they need the leadership skills at a later stage. So you're constantly enhancing them. And as far as developing more opportunities for young people in the country, surely if you are training or you're enhancing skills for leaders in both the public and the private sector, what you're actually doing is creating opportunity within your country.
The other thing is, you work in Nigeria. Yeah, John.
Yes, I think I am here, and I know he has a lot of experience within our sub-region. The reality that the young people are facing is that they are doing their best. In fact, the kind of, I'm not only talking about academic qualifications, the kind of experiences and qualifications that these older people have in the public service that you are talking about, people are having it at much younger age, but they are actually blocked from participating in the economic activities of this country by the use of a single word, experience. when are we going to give experience to our young people? So that is the huge challenge we are facing now. So that is the reason why I am thinking that focusing on the youth right now is the way forward.
Okay, but before I do that, the networking. One advantage of hiring your services is networking, because you've been to Zambia, you've been to Nigeria, so you come here and then you realize, oh, he's in TV production and he makes cameras. So let me link the two. Are these some of the benefits that they get from your services? Or?
Yeah, I mean, not for me in particular. Yes, I guess that would be nice if I can network people. But in terms of our consultants, yeah, they are working across the world. So those are some of the, as I was saying to you about the case studies and the anecdotal evidence, that's what they're able to provide to show people what is happening in other countries around the world. In terms of the PPP consultancy pieces that we do and the PFI consultancy pieces we do, that also a lot of our consultancy work there is about getting foreign investors to have an interest in the projects that you're currently undertaking. So yes, there is definitely that network advantage.
Well, thank you very much. With me in the studio was Paula Nicholson, Associate Director of GTC, and on the phone was John Akachi, who is a lecturer at University of Cape Coast in the Finance and Accounting Department. John, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And Paula, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And tomorrow we'll be back to do it all over again. My name is Nanan Sakwa.